All right, we are live, and I'm very excited to be chatting with today's guest, his second appearance on the show. On today's episode, I interview the founder of Steel Mace Flow, who's been putting mace in hand since 2014. He's based in Austin, Texas, and he travels across America teaching his Steel Mace Flow system. Steel Mace Flow Level 1 and Level 2 is also now available online as an online certification. Welcome to the Winner Circle. Welcome back to the Winner Circle, Leo Savage.
Well, thank you so much. It's so good to catch up with you. And I know we got to talk just a small bit before we hit record, but it's always great to reconnect with old friends and check up on them and see how they're doing. And I'd like to add to that, I haven't been involved in social media for a bit. And so I don't get my daily updates on how you're doing, what's going on in your life. And so there's really a what have you been up to conversation, rather than you ask somebody what they did last night, but you like their post from what they did last night.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So doing well. Thank you for having me. Excited to be back in the winner's circle.
Yeah, always. This podcast is all about uplifting, inspiring, empowering people tuning in to move forward with greater faith, belief, and trust in themselves on their hero's journey ahead. And the first question I now ask to everyone is sets us up on that positive vibration, that positive frequency. And that is, Leo Savage, what do you love about your world right now? And I'm talking about your personal world, not the external world, but your personal world. What do you love about your world right now?
Mm, mm. I've had a bit of a rough patch, and I have, of course, rough, if you run into something difficult, there's the initial reaction, and hopefully you deal with that well. Um, but if you sit with it for a while, you start to find out that the rough patch or the thing you're going through can be enjoyable. And I've always been, I love fighting. I love, I love the difficulty of it. I love it as an art form. I like to watch it on TV. And I myself, I like to fight. And it's something that has been in me since I was a little kid, doing karate kicks as to being an adult and being in professional fights. And removing myself from that fighting arena, uh, I'm still a fighter. Can you believe it? It's like that saying, you can take the guy out the trailer, but you can't take the trailer park out the guy, you know? Um, and so I'm gone through a rough patch, and in the process of fighting that rough patch, standing up to it, standing up to myself. And I am utterly in love with the process of transition or rebuilding or accepting challenge as an advantage. And so that's one thing that really just hits up front, and I don't have to put too much thought in. I've recently been, as an example, working out, uh, back with my steel mace, which I've taken some time away from. And it's difficult, man. It's tough. It's, 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 when you fall out of something that you were very good at, very talented at, your mind has the ability to see what you can do, but your body at times isn't as efficient as it used to be. So it does take time. And I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed my workout this morning. My legs were shaking afterwards. And I didn't used to get that feeling when I was in tip top shape. And it makes me daydream about being in shape and what I'll do with it when I'm in it. And I love that aspect of life currently.
Let's delve more into that. So let's delve into the rough patch, and then we'll get into why you took like you're taking your time away from the Steel Mace Flow. So yeah, let's talk about the rough patch. It's been a bit of a whirlwind year for you, 2023.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I had a good year during COVID. It was the after part that got me. I wonder if anyone else has had that. But the two questions, we can kind of answer them together.
Okay.
Um, because they revolve around each other. Let's see, a long time ago, it feels like everything's so long ago. Maybe that's just because my memory's not as good as it used to be. I got into this thing called shadow work. And shadow work, just to kind of sum it up, is if you think about your past, you might cringe about that thing you did or said that may have not been your best self, maybe a dishonesty, maybe just a bad choice you made. And the idea is in shadow work is you have to learn how to love the person who made that mistake. If you really want to love yourself, you can't hate yourself for that thing you did. And so I spent a lot of time learning to love myself for, whatever faults I have. And I think that's a very strong, it's a very healthy practice. And so that'll lead into this. And this is, I guess, is the first time I really talked about this in length. So I'll probably be emotional, but that's okay. And I'll just be honest about it, which is difficult. Um, Felt tough. The shirt's getting tight around my neck. um, when I created Steel Mace Flow, it was really the first time I felt like I'd shined. I had created something from nothing and made this beautiful world. And I very often saw myself as Steel Mace Flow. And I don't think that's too far off from what other people have thought at times that Leo's Steel Mace Flow and Leo's and Steel Mace Flow's Leo. They're synonymous with each other. And part of me started to dislike things in Steel Mace Flow to a point where they would upset me. I know trigger's a hot word, but I would get triggered emotionally. And I started to hate parts of Steel Mace Flow. And going back to what I said, I was slowly starting to find a way to hate parts of myself. I had some bad business dealings with people where they dishonestly trained with me to create a system of their own that was Steel Mace Flow. And while I have been extremely proud of people who have made secondary Steel Mace Flow programs, what I was feeling was over and over, I would fall in love with the student like a teacher should, like in a healthy, I'm your new uncle, I'm your new parent, I'm your new stepfather, I'm your new coach type of way. And I care very much about my students. And I would have a student break my heart uh, and put me through this breakup, if you will, is the best way I can describe it. And so I would see this student telling people they created Still Mace Flow, that they were the original person making programs. And I couldn't cheer for them. I was very upset at them and what they were doing with Still Mace Flow. And I would kick on Instagram and see somebody using Still Mace Flow in a weird way. And it started to add up on me until one day I had a conversation with a guy, with one of my students. And we had been through it a little bit. He disowned me as his coach. He sent me this message: "You've never been my coach. I haven't learned anything from you, yada, 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 yada." And my ego was a little bit wrapped up in this fight. And so I challenged him and I said, "You do all the same stuff I do. You use all the same language. We share the same students, and you use everything that I created." And he says, "Yeah. And you know what's not welcome in Steel Mace or in Mace Flow? You. Everything else that you've created is welcome, your students, but not you. We don't say your name when we teach. We don't want anything to do with you." And it was a breaking point of, like I said, learning how to be upset at myself and starting to be upset at the work other Mace Flow students or Steel Mace Flow students were using in the way that they wanted to. And I think that's very easy to be upset at yourself when you know you're getting mad at somebody for something that is healthy, that is beautiful, that is positive towards them. And so I built up a lot of resentment for myself. And it was tough. Still Mace Flow is how I deal with my shit. If anybody knows that anything about me, they know that when I'm having a hard time, I pour my heart and soul into my work. And I found myself not able to train with the mace because when I would pick it up, I would start thinking about a situation. It would trigger some emotion. And I found myself no longer being happy about life, but very angry. And that anger started to pour over into my home life, how I dealt with people on the road. I wasn't patient in my vehicle. I was upset when I was driving, honking, you know, cussing at people, looking for a fight. Thank God I didn't get in one. But I turned into I turned into somebody I didn't want to look at. And so participating in social media meant I would have to film myself. I would have to look at myself. And I didn't like that dude. And I ended up getting a little help from our health services here in America, which are, they're bullshit. And I ended up in a place with a bunch of drug addicts, people with real mental health problems, but mainly drug addicts. And I knew it wasn't a proper place of healing for me. It was rock bottom. I didn't have free will. I had bad times and, um, a menu of short things to order from. And I lived with crazy people. And there was no help for me there. I participated as much as I could because I did want help, but it just wasn't a great place for me to heal. That's for sure.
Uh-huh. And so why did you go to that facility? Was that your only option? Um, like in America? Like, yeah, well, like was that your only option? Why did you choose to go there?
Yeah, that was the option. That was the only option. I mean, I guess I could have sought outside help, but I was having a very difficult time in the moment, and I needed help immediately.
Uh-huh.
And so I put in a call to the place you call when you're not sure how things are going to work out in the next 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. And you were there for a couple months, or how long were you there?
Not very long. Once I realized where I was and that type of help I was going to get, I checked out as quick as I could.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you were able to check out as quick as you could, and not get stuck in there. What did you learn from, was there any positive lessons you learned from there, or was it just a sad situation to seeing how like these people that are needing help are not getting the help that they deserve?
It was weird. While I was there, I guess instead of really working on my own shit, I started pointing out how where people needed help.
Uh,
And, there were just nonstop situations between staff and, people who were there. And, it was rough. It wasn't, there was, it was horrible. I could give you different examples of there was a older Hispanic lady and she was old, man. She didn't know what was going on. You know how old people, I'm talking 80s, they have that era where they lived with where racism was tolerated at a certain level. And so when
yeah.
somebody gets to a certain age, they might say stuff that, they're just not in their right mind. But this older Hispanic lady, was having an issue with one of the African American staff, and she was racist. That's in her old age or whatever was happening. She seemed like a nice enough lady, but she said something and they didn't take her to eat that day. And I was like, who do I talk to about this? Instead of like, what about you, man? Like, I know these other people need help, or but you're not, you're one of these people. And my experience there was, first of all, look, I need help. I want help. Help me. Whatever they say they want me to do, I don't care. They want me to color, I'm going to color. Like, just tell me what to do. And all they wanted to do was give me pills.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I took some, antidepressants or stuff to help me chill out. And, that was, I don't think that, yeah, it was a tough situation for everybody there, including the staff. I'm not gonna say it wasn't tough for them, but I guess the biggest thing that happened to me there was I got a taste of rock bottom, big taste.
Uh,
I had time by myself to recognize my my ways, and I'm very critical about myself. It was very difficult to see the stuff I had done or the good I had done. It was just a big pity party. And yeah, rock bottom, man.
uh, and how did you pull yourself out? Well, what did that rock bottom look like? And then how do you pull yourself out from there?
Rock bottom was solitude. I stopped talking to people, was a big thing there. And, I'm an artist by nature, and I think artists want to be by themselves a lot of times to create, but that solitude will drive you crazy, even if you are working on good stuff. Uh, but one of the things that helped me get out of rock bottom was I started just talking to people, my friends. I made an appearance on social media. I started trying to communicate there. And what I found was a lot of people saw me for my good and not the bullshit that I was hypercritical about myself to do. And I'm not downplaying anything that I did or have done, but uh, yeah, I was able to slowly forgive myself through the love and support of my friends. And I don't have a big family. Mom and dad aren't around. They haven't been. I hopped in and out of houses as a kid. I don't have a traditional system of father son, mother son. I have an estranged family that I moved away from because of the upbringing that I had was not something I deemed as positive. And I found myself being a teacher and the man, Leo Savage, the Mace guy. And it's very hard for when you're the captain of the ship to lead with this image and this face of courage and positivity and then go talk to somebody. I found it very difficult to humble myself and say, hey man, I'm really going through a time here and these are the problems. I just try to pretend that they didn't exist and hold a statuesque face or appearance of like, I don't give a fuck. But I really gave a fuck. I really gave a lot of fucks. But yeah, talking to my friends and family was family. My brother, I talked to my brother a little bit. It made me feel good, and from there, I just started making slow steps of getting back into my practice of working with my mace and maintaining good friendships that don't involve the mace and detaching myself from my opinion of what I think that Leo Savage and Steel Mace Flow are the same thing. I came to realize, and this is a big thing for me. This part here is for a long time. If you were a student of Steel Mace Flow, you were my student because Steel Mace Flow was small at one time, and then it turned into where people were training in Steel Mace Flow and they had never met me before. And so it took me some time to separate the two between you're a student of Leo Savage or you're a student of Steel Mace Flow, which are two different things. And so trying to navigate that road, and I'm still working on it.
Yeah, that's
Not like
interesting.
I cured it over day or overnight, but at least I have a dialogue with myself that helps me get out of my head.
But I feel like you are the creator of Steel Mace Flow. So anyone that has learned it, even if they have not learned it from you, they're a part of your lineage. Because it would not have existed without your creativity, and you're just going for it and stepping outside the box.
I'll just say something real fucked up here. My ego doesn't allow me to appreciate that or if I go along the lines that you've said, which I have for years, it drove me into conflict because other people have created their own stuff. And so to say you're like a student of mine, you're part of my lineage when you've done your own thing, it makes me take away from your light. It makes me cast a shadow on your work. And so I did, and I do appreciate, and I have a martial arts background, and I pay homage to uh, the leaders in my life, and I appreciate that. But there are differences, and there should be, but it is complex in the way that it came it came from me, and it's part of me, but it doesn't belong to me, and
Uh,
that's difficult because it did belong to me, and it does belong to me. But what does that do to you as a student for your own free will and the way you want to live your life? It creates conflict, or not always, but it did.
yeah. No, I totally hear what you're saying. It has to do with respect as well. I just feel anyone that flows with the mace, they have to honor, or they should pay respect to like you, because that would not exist without you. But I guess it's a slippery slope with the ego.
It is. I've met, I remember growing up with the mace, spending the last 9+ years swinging. And I just remember thinking, like, if somebody plays with this mace long enough, they're going to figure this shit out. Like the mace moves harmonious with the body because it'll hit you if you're not in like in alignment with it. And so the way I move my body is that it doesn't conflict with the mace, but it moves with the mace. And things spin kind of one way, and centrifugal force kind of works in one way. And slinging in your body and using spiral lines, they kind of work one way. And so if somebody worked with this mace long enough, they'd come up with this stuff. And so I've had conversations with my students where they're like, no, I created this. And I'm like, well, no, look at this video from 8 years ago. Look, I created this 8 years ago. What a shitty thing to say to a student who's so proud of something that came to them naturally. And that's what I did for a long time.
Huh. I don't know. I think you're being hard on yourself. Um, and I'm surprised that you let like that one student of yours like steal so much of your peace.
You know what it
Um,
was? It was forgive me, but this happens to me like 3 4 times a year without fail. As long as I've been doing this, I go through a breakup with somebody I care about
uh,
every year. And it took me up until here to hit a breaking point.
uh-huh.
Still Mace Flow is also a business. I've had people steal my intellectual property 100%, copy and paste their pictures on my manual and redistribute it, resell it. I've
It's crazy.
had I've had people that I've stayed at their house, they've stayed at my house. They've I'll always be a Steel Mace Flow guy. And then one day, hey, I'm creating my own Steel Mace program. It's called Steel Mace,
Whatever.
whatever.
Yeah.
And they should be, man. This is like the student teacher relationship. Like you're supposed to create somebody who can go create and do well, and they don't have to bow to you. And if they do and they show you respect, like right on. But the mace world is such a small world that you could say, no, I'm the person who created this because it's so small and people will believe you. And people do inherently like the light to shine on them. And I
Uh-huh.
run into a lot of those people. And I'm not saying the overwhelming majority of those people are doing that. But I mean, how many of those can you go through where you put your heart and your soul? You have a best friend, you create a best friend, and then they stab you in the back. And they're very blunt about it.
Uh-huh.
I've had conversations like, hey, man, we're friends. Well, I'm broke. I need to make money. So I'm doing this, you know?
Is that what the commonality amongst all these people is? Is like it's just for the money. They're doing it for their own self-interest.
No. Well, I think some of them want to be rock stars. I think one of them, and some of them want likes and attention. And I've had people tell me that. But also, there's the inherent good in people. I want to help people. This is how I do it. Like, hey, dude, I'm a tennis coach. I deal with tennis people. I don't teach savages who smoke weed and wear short shorts. So if I introduce my tennis crowd or my golf crowd to Leo Savage, they might not like it as much. I'd rather them have a clean cut image of what Steel Mace Flow looks like. And so, what am I going to fault them for that? I get it. I'm with you. I'm probably not for the kids and the tennis players. And I'm glad you are. And so, there's a paradox there where I'm happy for you, but also I have the feeling of, well, you fucked me.
Yeah.
And I know that's not the most spiritual thing to say. And I know a lot of times we talk about using positive affirmations and positive words, but inevitably you run into somebody else's reality, which is not yours. And then you will have to deal with their truth.
Yeah.
And so it's okay for me not to use the manuscripted words to manifest my life. This is reality. If you are a true creator and you come up with genius, you'll run into this. And one day, if you don't say, fuck, this motherfucker, I can't believe he did this shit. And you're just going to keep getting taken advantage of because of your kindness and your willingness to accept other people's truths.
Uh,
There is a line.
so based on what has happened in the past, it seems like this will happen again. One of your students is going to kind of try to pave their own pathway. What's the correct way for a student of yours to do this? What is the proper way to do it rather than behind your back? I would think it'd be start with a conversation with you, which I wonder. I'm guessing the people probably have not done because people are kind of cowardly and they just are too scared to have a conversation, so they just will deal with the consequences after. Maybe that is true or not true, but what is the correct way for one of your students? They want to do their own thing and step away from your umbrella. Is there a proper way to go about this?
I don't think there is. I used to think there was, and that was, hey, you need to tell everybody that I'm the man. And Still Mace Flow is the OG, which is funny when it comes from Mr. Miyagi. You're like, oh, yes, sensei. Oh, yes. But when it comes from me, it sounds very egotistical, very narcissistic. It's all about me. Um, and so I did used to really prefer that you would use Steel Mace Flow in your project. And I did have conversations with people. And I said, spent a couple $1 million on the company, and you can use all our shit, logos, trademarks, whatever. And I won't charge you anything. Just put Steel Mace Flow product on there. And nobody said yeah.
Why? I don't get it.
Because they want to be the man. Just like I wanted to be the man.
Uh,
And so it's like I feel one way, but I can clearly see like you should be able to do your thing.
uh,
If there was only one mace company, that would suck. I mean, the mace sucks. But there's a bunch of companies who sell steel mace now.
uh,
If there was only one school of steel mace, yeah, because yeah, there's only one. It sucks. But now there's demand for it. And so there's a bunch of different mace companies. And so there's no like there's a right way or there's a wrong way. There's like cause and effect and learning how to deal with how it makes me feel or how I feel. But yeah, I've had some tough conversations with people, and I've lost some friends over it.
Mhm, mhm. So you said you used to want to be the man, and what do you wish to be
I'd rather just be a man about it.
now?
And where I'm at right now is appreciating everybody's contribution to flowing with the mace. It's difficult, like I don't know what the best way to describe it is, but like let's just say you have a breakup. That girl, she did that thing to you with your best friend, you know, and she remember what she did to your tires, you know. And there's this thing, this like anger. I don't know if anybody's ever had a bad relationship ending, but there becomes a time where time passes and you see him and you're just happy for him. You're like, right on. Like, looks like you're doing great. And that's what I've been working on is just appreciating all aspects of the art of steel mace flow or warrior flow mace or mace bell flow, whatever you want to call it. A very nice place to sit back and say, not grumpy Leo, just be like, that is badass.
Uh-huh.
That is beautiful. It helps me if I don't read anything and I just see the pictures or the video. It makes it
Uh-huh.
a lot easier for me to appreciate. Um, I came up with this thought that if you read something, you read it in your ego. And so you might send a nice message and post a nice thing. But if somebody reads it and they've had a bad day, it might come off as like rude to you or however you're feeling. If you're happy and you read it, you're probably going to identify. You're probably going to be able to hear my train. I live right by a train.
No, it's all
Not
good.
yet. Okay. Um, and so I try not to read stuff. Uh, I do like to overthink stuff. I do like to get in my own mind. My mind's always running. I think anybody who's got ADD understands that a little bit. Like the mind just doesn't necessarily turn off when you want to. So I try not to read the things that people write, both in my comment section and also when somebody's displaying art. If you just take the name out of it, it's all just people celebrating life, conquering a dynamic skill, getting fit, breathing, aligning their posture. And the beautiful thing is they're sharing their progress on a day-to-day uh, contribution or as often as they post. And it really is beautiful to see from not being Steel Mace Flow, just being Leo Savage and appreciating whatever's going on in their world right there.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. No, I appreciate how you're shifting your focus on the situation because I don't know, and from my understanding and from my opinion, um, Steel Mace Flow or Flowing with the Mace or whatever these titles are wouldn't exist without you. Like I feel like you were the first person to flow with the mace, and you weren't even flowing with the mace. You were flowing with a sledgehammer and just having fun, and it came through you, and that
That
grew. So
one,
I see
that one
flow.
right there.
Yeah,
That's my that's the first sledgehammer to ever deal with me and flow.
uh-huh. And like, look what it's become. Like that's
Yeah.
you. But I guess your ego doesn't want to hear that, or maybe it does, and you don't want.
Well, I think I've tried to talk to other people about this, and usually there's a participation versus creation or a refiguration of something that's already configured. And so I think when somebody creates something truly original, they have a certain relationship with it. Not to, I don't, I'm not trying to compare anybody's with mine, but I do feel like people call me the flow father. I'm like, yeah, still makes flows my baby. It's not my workout. It's not like it's my son. Steel Mace Flow is my son. It's my
yourself.
birthday. Yeah, yeah. It is quite a thing.
Yeah, I appreciate your vulnerability in this conversation, but also just with your posting about your struggles with mental health. Because what it does, it shows people like even like heroes, even people at the top of the mountain struggle. Um, what has been the feedback of you opening up about your issues, your struggles, you're hitting rock bottom? I'm assuming it's only loving.
Yeah, it's been good hearing from other people, and I had a student. So cool having so many people who care about you.
Yeah.
Talk about having a full Christmas experience. He said, just made me feel good. He said, Leo, you're such a fucking gangster. The way you deal with your shit is so fucking gangster. You didn't hide it. You said, hey, this is what's happening. And I felt it was important for me to post that because I felt if anything, my students have learned from me. They've learned about me, but they've learned from me. And I've always been ultra vulnerable with what's happening in my life because if it happened to me, it could happen to you. I noticed that a lot of my students who practice Still Mace Flow deal with the same issues, transitioning in life, maybe employment, maybe a relationship, maybe you're a wounded soul, maybe you're an old warrior trying to find that inner savage to come out again. But there's just so many commonalities. And so sitting here with this affliction, this thing that has been bothering me for a long time. And I thought, this is a good lesson. It's a very important lesson for my students to learn. Because if you go through this, if you're very proud of your mace work and you're the guy in the gym, uh, you might have somebody else come along and celebrate with you, just do it differently. And we as mace people or as flow people, we need to learn how to accept each other and not call sides and this move belongs to him or this art style belongs to them. I'd like for my mace community to learn how to get along better in their journey.
Uh-huh. So what's your advice for someone going through a hard time right now, um, with their mental health or their lifestyle?
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's important for you to look at your surroundings and look at the things that you're medicating with. Um, I got closer to God, and this is something, I guess when I got into the flow community, I started finding out about chakras, crystals, and the moons in retrograde and horoscopes. And it seems like the more far out there that world got, I started hanging out with people who they were their own God and they were their own creator and they were their own manifester. And so the deeper I got into that world, the further away from God I got. And I started looking at all the craziest people I know, mental health, women with toxic masculinity, um, men who don't know how to be men, just the whole realm of it. Everybody had crystals and sage to burn in their house, and God stood for something. And I'm not saying that other things don't, but I noticed the further away from God I got, the worse my mental health has gotten. And I look around at living in America, we're very detached from God. Everybody's mad about what the Crusaders did or what the pastor did last week rather than appreciating God for who he is or not being ashamed of being a Christian or believing in or that religion. And so I don't, it's not like I go to church or read the Bible anymore. I'm just getting away from things that are false idols. I don't think Sarah from the drum circle is God. I know she thinks she's God, but I want a realistic shot at this. And for me, that's just what I grew up around, and it made me feel comfortable. And I noticed when the further away I got from drum circles, the better I did. I
Uh-huh.
met so many people, Derek, who were struggling one week, struggling. And then they went to the drum circle, they went to the master class, they paid the $1,200 and spent the weekend doing free stuff. And then they're teaching workshops a month later. They're the dude teaching when they haven't even honed in their skills. And it's the truth of it.
Yeah.
And I know a bunch of healers, none of them are healed. They're often the most afflicted. And I say that from my own experience. I'm not trying to look at everybody and judge. I identified something that was going on around me. I looked at the things I was using to de-stress. And, I think about God when I do my breath work now.
Uh-huh. So
And it feels good.
what's that relationship with God look like? Like, so you said you don't read the Bible, you don't go to church. Do you pray? You speak to God? What?
Uh, I believe that God created rules. He said, look, if you want to party with me, this is how you live life. If you don't want to party with me, this is how you operate in that area. And so having morality and honesty and respect and not forcing your view upon people, like I don't want to get too far into uh, how people see things nowadays, but I just have a more realistic approach to there's a man and a woman, and I appreciate what everybody's going through and how everybody wants to see themselves. But it is very confusing for me when a woman identifies as a man. And it's not that I don't respect that person, but the way I grew up, it was like there was a man and a woman. And so I want to have a realistic stance on all things. And I believe uh in my experiences, and I practice my life based on being a Christian and the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
I don't think people are going to go to hell for not getting baptized. I think if you're a good dude, you're probably going to party with Jesus. And
Yeah.
I think if you're a bad person, you're probably not going to get invited to that party.
Uh-huh.
But it makes me feel more whole, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that there's a consequence for having a bad moral judge or character. I believe in honor. I believe in love, and I understand. I feel like church turned into a business for me. For when I was going to church, I very felt the business sense of it, and so that's why maybe I don't necessarily participate in that aspect of religious practice, but that's how I roll.
Another way you said you talked about medication. Another way you used to medicate was with cannabis. What does your relationship with cannabis look like over the years and through this last year of healing? Is it still a
Yeah,
tool?
yeah. So what I realized about my cannabis use was I really didn't understand how I felt at any given time because I smoked so much. When I was happy, I would smoke. When I was sad, I'd smoke. When I was hungry, I smoked. And so um, I really didn't feel a lot of pain or a lot of struggle. And it was my coping mechanism for everything. And so I stopped learning how to cope. And so my cannabis use is down extremely low. And I'm very proud of that. And it's nice. It's nice. I'm not as sleepy in the day. I noticed some things are more difficult, like creating art is a lot easier when you're smoking, or in my case. And um, yeah, I appreciate it. I don't look down on anybody for doing it, but I wish I would have smoked less in my time where I was on top. That way I could appreciate it just a little bit more. But yeah, Mary Jane's good.
Uh, so now that you're not smoking as much, what have you replaced that with, or just more time with God, more stillness, um, more time being present, or are you, or is there other tools that you've turned to? And a tool could be like your relationship with your partner Ashley, who you've been with for 2 years. You're telling me before the call, or your community. Yeah. So how have you filled that space that used to go to cannabis?
Hmm. I do a lot of the same stuff. I just do it sober.
Uh,
And, so like I still live my life. I still work out. I still cook. I still clean. I still play games. I still, I've enjoyed driving around Texas. That's been something I've taken up. Um, but yeah, I'm still, yeah, I still do the same exact stuff. I wake up, eat some eggs, go in the garage, swing a mace, practice that, edit, see what my friends are doing, hang out with my partner. It's just there's not I don't have to get high every time I do something.
uh-huh, uh-huh. Speaking about the bass, I'm seeing you swinging a new bass that I've not seen
Hmm.
before. The blue one, the little Savage. What's up with that?
Yeah. So when I first started swinging the mace, I was goddamn 32 years old, and I was in great shape. And my elbows, my wrists, my shoulders, everything was in great shape. And I felt like it was the perfect tool, especially for me. And I still stand by that. The 10-pound steel mace was just absolutely perfect for um, what I was doing and what I was going to do with it. And every now and then I would run into somebody and they would have difficulty using this 10-pound mace. And I just thought, you're not strong enough. You'll get there. Oftentimes, that's what I said. Going to get there. And I had techniques that you can use on that particular mace to make it easy to use. Um, but as time went on, I couldn't ignore the fact that, everybody's got different arms, different hands. I have a 4'2" student. And so for them, holding the 10-pound mace is very difficult. Now, I did fall in love with the 10-pound mace because of how it was balanced. It's very off balance. It's the most off balance. And so I guess a lack of balance is still balance. But um, I never liked smaller maces because they didn't have that perfect off balance sense to them. And then one day, my buddy Dave created a slew of maces, the blue one being one of them. And I enjoyed swinging it. I thought it was completely well balanced and it was super thin. And so all the ranges of motion I hadn't warmed up yet. I was still able to do those moves because I had just this thinner, lighter mace, and I found it to be very comforting. I thought it felt good to swing, to say the less. But then I just thought like I had this like flash into my past about all the people with small hands who just couldn't use the 10-pound mace, and I was like, dude, if you would have had this mace 10 years ago, you would have double the students because the ease of learning to move on this smaller mace, it's just easier. And so we launched that one recently. Just a fun fact about that, Dave, the guy who created that mace, all benefits go to him. He did ask me if I would endorse the mace, and I said yes, absolutely. But very proud to not take any of his piece of the pie, and that's still Mace. I'm very glad that he's selling them. I'm very glad that I have one, and I'm happy to see my other students get a hold of them. I've seen kids using them. I've had some older students who um, find that mace very usable, and it doubles as a cane. Like if you flip it upside down, it's the perfect height for a cane. I think one could get it through an airport if you just like hobbled along and used it. But it's been neat to see. I think it's beautiful. I think it looks good on camera. Um, and I'm excited to see what people create with it. I know for myself, there are certain limiting factors to the steel mace, the 10-pound steel mace. And I don't want to get into too many specifics, but I can tell you a shorter, thinner, lighter mace, you can, my mind thinks of stuff that I would have never thought of doing with the bigger, heavier mace. And so then having like a neat move I can do with this smaller mace and then adapting it to the bigger mace, it's been a lot of fun. And so it's kind of like opens up this area of new moves that are starting to come out or have been coming out since using that mace.
Uh-huh. It's 4.5 pounds, correct?
Yeah, yeah, it's light.
Yeah,
4.4.
4.4.
Yeah.
It's a nice number. It's cool how you've been swinging this mace for so long, and you're still finding new innovations and new movement patterns, and it's cool how it's continuing to evolve. Where do you see the evolution of mace going?
Yeah, yeah. I wish I could look through the time portal and see what happens. Um, I know it's not a it's here. Look, okay, so Elon Musk wants to colonize Mars, and he's like, I want to see what that looks like, but I'm not going to see its full potential. And I feel like the same, like, well, I mean, it's not Mars, but I don't know where it's gonna go. I know that currently there are a lot of young people using the mace. And if you really want to see something evolve, get it in the hands of the youth, and they'll do the craziest things with it. And so there's a bunch of really talented dudes in their 20s to 30s, men and women, who are using the mace in very beautiful, very technically sound ways. The future of Steel Mace Flow, I have no idea. It is just glorious to see that it's still doing its thing, that people still enjoy it. Uh, I love hearing people romanticize about fitness, any fitness. Uh, well, one thing about the mace, particularly in flow, is you create your own movements or your own way of doing a movement. And I really think that's a beautiful thing because people are practicing moving like themselves versus not that I'm not putting down anything, but like if you do a bench press, it looks the same way every time you do a bench press from this guy to that guy to this person. And but when somebody does a 360, it's celebrated for how unique it is from somebody else's. And so I love, watching people work on a practice of developing themselves, not doing impressions of other people. I guess might be the best way to say it.
When you first started swinging your sledgehammer, that it's evolved into Steel Mace Flow now, could you have predicted how big and popular the mace would have become?
Yeah, I did. I recognized the extreme value in it. I thought it would jettison across the world. I knew it wasn't for everybody. I knew that there were ways to make it for everybody. I could have toned it down a bit, but that wasn't the process. I went as crazy as I could with it. And I was like, not everybody's going to like this, but the people who like it, they're going to fall in love with it. And I realized really quick that I had like 10 diehard people. Like they just love Still Mace. And I think that's important if you're a coach or an entrepreneur. You get 10 people who bleed your product or the thing you do, they'll tell everybody you need to do it. And so focusing on that like real strong core group, I always had a real strong core group. And then each one of those people immediately had their core group. And I recognized the willingness for people to share their moves and what they've learned because they wanted somebody to play with, somebody that they could see do the thing they were working on. And I knew right away, I said, this is going to be something. I was fairly convinced that it was already something. I remember moving my sledgehammer around and just thinking like, oh, there's somebody else doing martial arts with the sledgehammer. Let me find them. And I scoured the internet or what was around at that time and try to find somebody doing the thing. But there was not. And so we marched forward from there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't want to be one of those guys who says, "Oh, I didn't know it was going to work out like this." Well, then why'd you work so fucking hard? Okay, you had to have seen something if if you worked that hard. But yeah, I didn't know in the ways it would be used. Or one thing that still trips me out is when I see people teaching Steel Mace Flow in native language, like even if it's like Spanish and close to home, or yeah, I still think it's like it's super cool.
Uh-huh. Other than the steel mace, is there any other fitness tools or movement methodologies that excite you right now and that kind of pique your interest?
Um, no, no, I think it's all beautiful. And like I watched a class of animal flow going on, and I thought that was super beautiful, but I didn't want to dive in there and do side kick throughs with everybody, even though I love to do a side kick through. But I'm uber focused and always have been on the steel mace. And it's kind of in my lane. It's like my sport, if you will.
Yeah.
And I do think I do every now and then I'll just see something super bizarre and I'll really get into it. Like I was watching some people do tricks with frisbees, and I was like, oh, that is so cool. And then that led me into watching kids use yo-yos, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. But I don't necessarily like, I don't want to get into it, but I do think that it is beautiful. I really enjoy watching track and field. I think that's one of the most amazing things. I don't do it, but still think it's awesome.
So the 2024 is just around the corner. This is going to be your first episode of the new year. What's your vision for 2024?
Huh. Yeah, I really haven't future casted so much. I've just been going day by day and focusing on waking up happy and working out, swinging my mace. I know that Steel Mace Flow is already off to some big plans for 2024. So we'll be in Chile, in Argentina, in Australia. And we haven't even gotten to the new year yet, but I know that we're going to be working and we're going to be busy. But yeah, I'm just taking it day by day and really trying to appreciate each day for it, and waking up happy and going to bed happy is just the best or the biggest focus I have. And I'm glad that Still Makes Flow is definitely a part of that.
Amazing. And so, will it be you going to those countries or coaches that you've taught?
Yeah, so just me. We still have an education team, although it'd be a lot smaller. And but yeah, those will be me. It's really nice to have hosts. So I'll be going to the Human Lab in Chile. It's just such an amazing gym, but I don't speak Spanish. And so I'll be going up there like a week early and working with the team there, and in preparing them to help me co-facilitate the education. Of course, they'll be speaking in Spanish, I'll be speaking in English. And so I'll get to have one of my favorite moments, and that's watch somebody teach Steel Mace Flow in an alternative tongue. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's exciting that you get to visit all these countries as well. That's a super cool
Yeah,
outcome.
not one in America, though. Isn't that awesome?
You've done a
Like
lot.
it's so weird that I'm from America and it's like my next three gigs are all in different countries.
Yeah. Expanding the world. Um, our first podcast, which is crazy, it was like 3.5 years ago now. We talked
Mm,
about one of your mentors, Shane Heins. How has
mm.
your relationship with him evolved over the years? Are you still in connection with him?
Shane and I haven't talked for a while. The Anna and I did part ways, friendly and amicable as humanly possible. When Aubrey bought the gym, there were some changes there, and I haven't seen or nor talked to Shane very much in that time. One of the other things that happened was our good buddy John Wolf left the On It Academy, and in talking with him and talking with Shane, you and I were always used to seeing kind of like John Wolfe being the front guy, and then talking to Shane and John and realizing John was gone. It was like, Shane, you got to do all the stuff you were doing, which he's very important at down at gym. But now you're also the front guy.
Uh,
And Shane, of course, has a big family and loves and cares for them so much. Um, I recognized how busy he was going to be, and we just haven't talked. I've gave him his space, and he's gave me mine. But it's been awesome to click on the channel and watching Shane and the On It Gym do their thing. I always think of the time I spent with Shane at the On It Gym and how important it was to me, and looking at the new faces that pop in and out of the On It Gym, and knowing that they're gonna get to share time with Shane. It makes me so happy. Like, talk
yeah.
about landing on Yoda's planet, going to the On It Academy.
Yes. So he was the one we spoke to about. We were talking about mentors. We kind of exclusively talked about Shane. So who have been some other mentors and allies that have helped you in the last 3.5 years since we last talked? Who were they, and what were your major takeaways learned from these mentors?
Hmm, that's a really tough question. I don't have a lot of mentors, and yeah, Shane's one of them. But I guess since the absence of Shane, uh, I really haven't had a lot of them.
Uh,
There's one guy, Mark England, that I don't know if I'd call him a mentor, but he's definitely sat in that seat for me most recently, and was able to not say anything, just listened,
uh,
and then offered to go take me shooting guns.
okay. So an ally.
And
Ally. You also mentioned Wes Brown, someone that's been influential on your path.
oh, Les, yeah, Les, yeah, a never met him obviously, but we shared quite a bit of time apart. But he was a motivational speaker who I think has been on anybody who works out Instagram posts. It's like that nice voice in the back about getting shit done. Um, yeah, I don't listen to him anymore. I haven't in quite some time. I haven't really been attuned into music or that type of broadcast. Unfortunately, it just hasn't been something. Well, I don't know if it's unfortunate. I need less. Uh, I need less thoughts in my brain about what to do next. I feel like I've got the tools and the help, and so not taking other stuff in and just focusing on what I have instead of trying to reinvent my wheel.
Yeah, I think that's important. Like, and that's like a thing where I feel like in the wellness community, the audit community, total human optimization, and just like always needing to be better, always needing to learn more, the constant consumption, where it's just like, yo, like, how about you practice and you wield the tools that you have developed so far, not always searching, seeking. And I
Mm,
think that's good, to give yourself space to implement what you know and to use the tools that you have, because like you have so many and so do I. And we don't always need to be like more, more, more.
yeah, absolutely. Work on what you got with what you got instead
Yeah,
of always looking for an answer. Because if you're always looking, it's very hard to look at yourself. I got
yeah,
to tell you, even though this has been a difficult time, and I know we did focus on what's been happening in the world of Leo,
yeah,
I've had a lot of great things happen, and I definitely recall being very young, and we lived in a homeless shelter for a while, and then we moved out of the homeless shelter. We got into some, I'm not sure what it was, but we're low income. I don't know. But we went into the place, and I was very excited. Uh, Homeless shelters are not fun, no matter what age you are.
yeah,
But I remember moving into this place and going in and flicking the light, and of course the light didn't turn on. And we didn't have electricity, and I didn't really understand what it took to make electricity or pay an electric bill. But I remember having faith in my mom. She was gonna figure it out. And I remember like we went to daycare or whatever the situation was, and mom picks us up and takes us back home, and she's like, "Leo, turn the light on," and the electricity turned back on, just a flip of a switch. And it was such an amazing feeling having electricity run through your whole household, charge up, whatever needed to be charging. That light in your closet that you kind of forgets there, it still turns on. And it might have turned on when you flip the switch if you forgot to turn it off. And so we do have these things in us that once we decide to flip the switch, we they start to turn on for us. And with that like flow of electricity as a metaphor for life, when I decided this isn't how I'm going out. I'm gonna have a hard time, but I'm gonna fight my way through this. And to decide I'm going to move my life forward and flipping that switch and having love and support was that metaphor for electricity now in this story. I've had a lot of love, I've had a lot of support, and things are working as they should. And it's been such a good feeling to get out of my own head and to get into other people's head and just take them for what they say.
Um,
And instead of second guessing or getting into my own head, it's been good. I'm more in love with swinging my mace than I've been in a long time. I'm so thankful for each and every student I teach. To whereas as it used to be we had a lot of students and I didn't know all of them. But now each time I gather a student and we start training, uh, it means so much more to me. And so I'm so much more appreciative for life and the things that come with it. And feels good, man. Feels good to be back.
I'm glad you're back, and we all are, Leo. Love has helped you here. It has helped you find that switch, that electricity switch. What have you learned about love on your journey? What does love mean to you? What have you learned about that word, that
Mm.
thing?
Man, it's powerful. Oh, love. What do I know about love? I know I've been in love. I know I've been loved. I know that there's different levels of love. Um, wow. I don't know if there's a more powerful force than love. What a great motivator. What a great reason to do stuff. I think using love as the reason why you do stuff, uh, it supercharges it. I know all the things that I've loved have been long lasting in my life, not just in and out. And I think it's okay to be in love. I think it's very important to look for love. Love creates kids. And that's how you keep the world going.
Uh,
Without a doubt, you must have kids in order for the world to keep going. And what else do I know about love? I know it's, I know it's difficult. Just as heartwarming as it is, it can really open up your heart. But an absence of love can really make it feel like it's closed. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to be with and feel that way. Yeah.
mhm.
So if you're looking for love, you're gonna get all of it. You're gonna get the sharp end of the sword. You're gonna get the poetic end of the sword, I'm sure. And I wouldn't want to do life without it. I know that's one of the biggest things that I want. When I say, what do I want? I want love. And I'm actively in pursuit of it. I'm not dating or anything. I have a loving partner right now, and we love each other very much. But I noticed that being in love with Ashley's taught me a lot about life and where I need to show up as a partner and what you're willing to do when it comes down to losing love or keeping it.
Yeah.
And I would suggest everybody find true love. Yes. In
Uh-huh.
work and friendship and an interesting conversation my partner and I had is I tell all my friends I love them. I don't have friends that I don't absolutely love, and I don't do things recreation that I don't absolutely love. Not to say that I'm not going to try new things that I haven't built up that relationship with, but I do like to be in love.
Yeah. Another factor that really has helped you on your path, not only this past year, but just helped you on your path, period, has been community. Um, what does community mean to you? And what is your advice for someone out there looking for theirs?
Community for me has always been a resource for family. I spoke a little bit about my family, but very estranged from it. And so forming a community was creating this second family of brothers and sisters, not necessarily moms and dads, but brothers and sisters. And yeah, advice for that is you should create that type of architecture in your life. And yeah, get as many friends as you can along the way. Um, yeah, I guess that's it.
And what have you learned about being a good friend?
It's very rewarding. It's very, very rewarding. I had this friend, Adam, and he would like work on everybody's cars. And so, like, I just showed up to his house one day. It was like, "How's your Corvette running?" And I was like, "It's fine." He's like, "Well, you came over?" It's like, "Yeah, man." It's like, "Well, why'd you come over?" It's like, "Well, because we're buddies, man." But he just kind of always expected somebody to like ask him for something, or can you look at my carburetor or
Yeah.
whatever. But so I started making it a point in my life just to be Adam's best friend. Like back in the day, like I would eat at McDonald's back then, and I would like anytime I ordered any fast food, I was gonna get another meal and then just go to Adam's and just like be his best friend. And yeah, being a friend's very rewarding.
Amazing. Through it all, through the highs and lows that is this hero's journey, what would you say has been the greatest life lesson you've learned on your path thus far that you feel called in this very moment to share with us?
Hmm. The hero's journey, just saying hero means that, well, there's a hero. And usually, if there's a hero, there's a victim. And we romanticize a lot about being the hero, but often we're living in a victim mentality. And it seems that us as a society with woke activism have made it everybody's opportunity to play the victim. If you stand for something, it's okay to stand for something, but being a victim means that you're against something. Stand for something, but stand with other people. I know it's very difficult out there to identify with who you are, but you need to love each other for their differences. I love weird people. I fucking love them. Now, would I do everything with them? Absolutely not. But that doesn't mean that I'm against them. It is a very positive thing to see the light in somebody, no matter what their thing is, and make a practice out of it. I think it's important, yes, to wake up, but it's a very contagious road to fall in line with woke equals victim. Wake up, yes, but you don't have to be somebody where you feel like everybody's out to get you or your cause or they're attacking your cause. When I grew up, there was this thing where they said in the war, not who was right and not who was wrong. And I would love a place where I'm called to say to everybody out there is in the fucking war. It's not about who's right or who's wrong, because that conversation is a yo yo. everybody's right and everybody's been wrong, and given time, those things will switch place. I think it's very important to say, hey, there are things that have happened in the past, but here we are now. I'm not upset about what America did in whenever they did it. I am so happy to be an American and live in America. And I don't hate us for the things we did. And that has given me an opportunity to look at other places in the world and appreciate their culture and understand that they're not the bad guy and we're not the good guy. This isn't the hero versus uh, whoever. This is about a bunch of heroes aligning together and lifting us up. So don't get stuck in the victim mentality. And yeah, I guess that's important uh, for me.
Beautiful. All right. Every episode we finish with the final two questions. We're in that at that point. So, in 3 words, how would you describe the current experience you are having in this reality, in this now, on this earth? 3 words that describe your world.
Inspiring, challenging, uh, loving.
Inspiring, challenging, and loving. It's a beautiful place. Final question. We've examined your past, we've examined your present. We'll go visit you in the future. We'll be
All
bring
right.
ourselves an 85-year-old Leo Savage. Who is this 85-year-old Leo Savage? Where are you? Who are you surrounded by? What is the legacy you've left here in your 85 years? And what are the predominant feelings in your being?
Man, when I think about 85, I think about being in hospital bed, saying farewell.
Oh,
Um, who knows where I'll be standing or laying down at 85. But that dude, that 85-year-old Leo Savage is going to be so happy with what he did with his life. And I'm not going to look back and have regrets of coulda, woulda, shoulda. Here's where I fucked up. I'm going to be happy about the people I brought together. I'm going to be happy with my life's work. And I will be very active in watching people on social media flow like an old boxer watching boxing matches, reliving um, his childhood or younger years via other people's beautiful movement.
uh, beautiful. I would just like you to maybe close your eyes, take a breath, and just really connect with that 85-year-old man and feel into what that feels like to just be so happy of where you are, having no regrets, have left an impact on so many through your love and passion for the steel mace and creating Steel Mace Flow. And that 85-year-old man, he comes back with us to the present and he sends you a message. What does he whisper in your ear?
He says, thanks. He says, that was so much fun.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And this has been so much fun. And I thank you, Leo. It's been great to reconnect and hear about what you've been up to, the triumphs and the tribulations. But I just appreciate your honesty and the rawness of this conversation. And I'm sure everyone listening will also feel the same way.
Thank you so much. And we need to do this again because I know our next conversation will be one of nothing but positivity and next chapter in this story. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And for people wanting to connect with you, they can find you on Instagram at leo.savage.smf. And they can learn all about Steel Mace Flow at steelmaceflow.com. Level 1 and level 2 certifications are available in person, but they're also available online, which is a great thing that has come from the pandemic. You've pivoted and made that available to everyone, no matter where
Yeah.
you are in the world. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap on today's conversations. Much love. I love you, brother. And I'm proud to call you a friend.
Thank you so much, Derek.